through the day, lots of overs and lots of good overs. So India will be very happy.
So they say don't judge the pitch until both teams are batted, but this is not so much of the pitch. So would you agree with that?
Absolutely. It's still
17 wickets in 2 days.
It's a very good wicket to bat on. There's no doubt about that. But both the sides, disciplined bowling effort, and also I think how many times do we see where the run rate is just over 2? In modern day, even Test match cricket, we are talking about T20 generation of batsmen. You always look to play attacking shots. You score 3.5, 4 runs per over is the norm. But just over 2 runs, is it bad batting or is it good bowling? I would say it's definitely bad batting, because yes, the bowlers stuck to their task, they executed their game plan, they were disciplined, but the intent which you want to see, especially from an Australian batsman, was not visible at all. I think this, as far as I followed the game, this is the first time where I've seen an Australian batting lineup just score 2 runs or more in Test match cricket.
Now there were reservations on the Australian batting, Brad Hodge. That was the talk. That was the reason for the optimism surrounding India. Would you concede that this is a nice early blow for a nice early signs for India's bowlers that this Australian batting has some serious strengths in it?
Yeah, no, I think they do. I think that one of the observations is how tentative that our players have been, and scoring at only 2 runs and over is unheard of from an Australian batting lineup. Yes, India have bowled well, but we certainly have let them dominate in terms of allowing them to stick to their plans consistently. I think Travis Head and probably Marcus Harris are probably the only 2 batsmen which have shown courage to play their natural game and play their shots. And VVS is right. This is a very, very good batting wicket, and I don't think you'll see the Indians make the same mistakes they did in the first innings. I think they'll, given their opportunity, will look to post a big score in the second innings.
17 wickets on 2 days, and what we've seen from VVS, Ajit and Brad is a very good batting pitch. So let's talk a little bit more about Travis Head. Now he was I wouldn't say contentious, but it was a toss-up, Haji, between him, Peter Hanscom and Mitchell Marsh if they play the extra all-rounder. So Travis Head doing his cause no harm with the way he's got his runs.
Well, I think he's looked very composed at the crease. He's taken a leaf out of Pujara's book. He's played straight. He's played his game. He's stuck to his plans. He's punished anything that's been short and wide. He's driven well to the ball which was pitched up, and fair credit to him. I think he made 70 in his last innings in the UAE, which will give him a lot of confidence playing a home test at his home ground, Adelaide Oval, and he's been dominant through the offside, and I think that. He's a guy that can certainly stand up for the future, and I think also he played Ashwin quite well. Give him credit when he came in. There was pretty tough conditions for Australia. They were under pressure.
It's actually quite amazing that wagon wheel, similar innings to Pujara. That's the only area where Pujara had not scored runs yesterday. Through extra cover, and he scored the most runs there. I mean, of course, the bowling is different. He's a left-hander, but. Really good knock.
And we've seen Travis Head in the IPL. He strikes you as one of those, very good modern day 2020 players, dangerous middle order IPL batsmen. This is the kind of challenge that most modern day batsmen are failing to sort of match to, just adjusting and playing a proper test innings.
Yeah, I think it boils down to your determination. The team was struggling, and that's why, again, this is an important knock. Even though it's not finished, it's an half century as of now, but the discipline is showed, the determination is showed, and whenever the ball was there to be hit, he didn't miss out on these opportunities. Whenever there was an half volley, he drove through the cover region, extra cover region, and whenever it was short and wide, he played the cut shot. And that's so important, because when the team is in a tough situation, you can't afford to go into a shell. So I thought that it was a good mix of defense. At the same time, whenever the opportunity arose, he capitalized on that. But the work is not completed as far as Travis Head is concerned, because Mitchell Starc can bat, Nathan Lyon can bat, and if they can get close to 250 or even surpass that, I think it will be a psychological advantage to Australia, because they have to keep in mind that the wicket will deteriorate, especially keeping in mind the way Ashwin has been bowling. There will be more purchase for the off-spinner as the match progresses, and Australia has to bat in the final innings of this test match. So the longer Travis Head and Starc and the rest of the batsmen bat and put on more score, it will be better for Australia.
One thing we've observed in this game of unforced errors by the batsmen is just the lack of confidence to trust your defence from the batters. And we look at Travis Head's defence today, 34% of his balls defended and 11% left alone. So from the Cheteshwar Pujara school of thought in this innings, And good to see that the batsman who's known for the shorter format is willing to trust his defence.
And you have to.
Yeah.
You know, all the best batsmen or best players who do well in all the three formats, they show something known as adaptability. You cannot afford to just go out and play in one fashion. You know, that's the challenge if someone is playing all the three formats. You know, you have to adapt to the format, change your game depending on the conditions you're playing on, depending on the opposition bowler's game plan. You have to make your own game plan succeed. So I think it's good to see. But as Pujara showed yesterday, or anyone who gets a big score in Test match cricket, at some stage you have to trust your defence and you have to know where your off stump is. And these are the basics of batting and batting well in Test match cricket. This will never ever change, because when you're playing in Test match cricket, when you're playing for your country, you're going to play against quality bowlers. So quality bowlers will not necessarily give you a lot of loose deliveries. Probably you may get that opportunities in T20 format, but not necessarily in Test match cricket. So you have to show that patience, you have to show the discipline, which Travis said showed this afternoon.
I mean, an average of 36 in first class cricket, Haji. I don't know if you looked at Travis Head and all the 2020 cricket he plays successfully and said this guy could be the answer or one of the contenders for Australia's Test middle order spot. The kind of start to this important series now, you think that Australia should invest in someone like him, and if a Mitchell Marsh or someone else has to be brought in, it could very well come in the place of someone at the top or someone at the top of the order.
Yeah, well, he possibly could. I think that, you know, one of the criticisms of most of our guys playing in this Test 11 is that, you know, the averages of which they got are not as substantial as what they used to be. They haven't got the Test averages of Stephen Smith, Justin Langer, Matthew Hayden, Ricky Ponting, Damien Martin, Michael Clark. You know, they're just still finding their feet. They've only played a couple of Test matches here or there, but I think Travis Head in the future could be a guy that, you know, could potentially challenge, you know, Sean Marsh for a spot in the number 4 position, I guess. If he continues to play this way and scores heavily, then by all means he'll move up the order and put pressure on others.
Okay, so much
Just
for Travis.
on that,
Yes,
no, I'm really surprised, and I would like to know Ajit's view on that, because the first time I toured Australia, Ajit was there on that tour, was 1999-2000. And there was the Australian national team, and there were at least 10 or 12 batsmen in the entire system who could easily create an impact, not just play in the playing 11, but create an impact and win matches on their own. Brad Hodge himself got a double 100 and then didn't get much to play for Australia. And it's so surprising to see the lack of depth in the resources, lack of depth in the replacement. All they had was 2 players. Yes, they were probably the
best 2 players.
The best 2 players.
Still 2 players.
Yeah, but the way the youngsters, the way Aujie has been mentioning that none of them have got good first-class record, shows the lack of depth of talent, especially in the batting unit in Australia. And that's a huge surprise to me.
I mean, we've said it before. There were times that the Australian A or Australian B teams could beat some significant international teams, maybe even the Australian national team. Haji, any response to Lakshman's comments just on the lack of batting reserves that Australia surprisingly find themselves in?
Yeah, we actually are in a real trough of talent, I suppose, and we're trying to find the recipe that, you know, unfortunately we haven't got, you know, the depths at the moment. We're searching for talented people. I just saw Michael Hussey, you know, walk out of the door next to me, and, you know, he was scored 10,000 runs before he even got an opportunity to play Test cricket. So we haven't got the likes of those players to call on, unfortunately. Where I guess the selectors are trying to find, you know, little diamonds in the rough, but unfortunately their Sheffield Shield records are probably not driven and not ambitious enough, or the message needs to be that, you know, you need to score 400 or 500 in a year, or you need to score 1,000 runs in a calendar year to actually get selected for Test match cricket. At the moment, if you score a good 50, you're a good chance of getting selected for a Test match. And, you know, the bar's just not set high enough at the moment, in my opinion, in Australian domestic cricket.
So is that bar being decided or set by just the scouts and selectors at the domestic level? There hasn't been any change in conditions that would suggest batting averages dipping on an average?
No, I think it's maybe a promotion of you know, juniors before they've actually level. I mean, for some reason we have, you know, we have the reasoning to try and thrust our junior cricketers into a Test selection or Test atmosphere before they're ready. But the problem is we actually haven't got the luxury of, you know, having a Mark Waugh or Steve Waugh, Mark Taylor, Michael Slater, and then batting a young Ricky Ponting at number 6. You know, if you look to this lineup, we've got 3 or 4 guys who have only played less than 15 tests, and, in an Australian lineup, that's unheard of. Usually, you see stacked full of experience, and you can call on that experience whenever you need it. But right now we're vulnerable, and unfortunately, the guys that have played a number of tests aren't scoring runs either. So it's a selection dilemma for the Aussies at the moment.
I mean, just world over, Ronak, you've got to accept that the game's changed. T20's had its effect, and it does trickle down to Test cricket. There's no matter what. Steve Smith and David Warner are two big guys that Australia are missing. Yes, they're just two guys, but you put them in that lineup, and suddenly then the lesser experienced guys can look up to somebody to get better. But in general, I mean, you look at India's batting record overseas at the moment. There's one. Okay, Pujara's got 100 right now in this first test, but otherwise it's been Virat Kohli alone who's been carrying the batting. So generally, world over, you are getting players who have lesser averages in first-class cricket, and unfortunately that maybe is the bar at the moment. I mean, India might be a little bit different to some of the other countries, but you looked at the England batting this summer as well, and it seems to be a case throughout the world.
I mean, I guess our expectations are that while everyone tours poorly, including India, including Australia when they came to India and have gone to Sri Lanka, that at home you don't expect Australia to be vulnerable. However, these guys they're still their home ground. So
I think it's also the first class record and the number of matches they already played in first class. Whereas if you see the Indian batting lineup, if you see their first class record, I think they all will be close to 45-50, which is good first class record. But it's just the talent, and the attitude of the Australian players, because I always felt that the character of the Australian batsmen was to show that positive intent, always to look for runs, and they're always looking for a boundary. That's what Ricky Ponting or all of those greats used to always tell. Yes, there is difference in the talent, in the skill level, but I think the approach of an Australian batsman has always been, since the time I followed Australian cricket, was first look for a boundary and the last option is a defence or a leave. Whereas if you see the way the Australian batsmen have played in this test match on a flat, placid wicket, it was more about being tentative, not to get out, and then whenever the opportunity arises, they're looking to score, which is just the opposite of what I've seen the approach of Australian batsmen, great or even a first-class cricketer.
So lies the challenge ahead for Justin Langer to try and instill some of that old Australian glory into this, well, not even that old, but recently gone by Australian glory into this new side. But we got 7 more innings to go. It shouldn't be all doom and gloom, and India have their own problems in their batting. But this was a good little chat on Australian cricket and the woes that lie ahead of him when it comes to batting. It's a good day for India's bowlers though, so let's highlight on that. 191 runs kept the run rate to just over 2 and 7 wickets.